I reminisce.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video, and today I'll be reacting to Aliens Dark Descent review. This is from Mandalore Gaming. Now, this was also requested, but I had already downloaded this video. I was planning on doing a reaction to it. I just hadn't yet, but now I'm doing it because I saw this was available on the PlayStation Store. And at first I thought it was okay, this is like an XCOM alien game. But I found out that when I started reading about it, I Googled it, I found out that it's not turn-based like XCOM is, which is another game I've been planning on for years playing. I don't know why I'm kind of intimidated to play that, because I watched some other people play it. And it's kind of intimidating. Also, I'm not the biggest fan of turn-based games. Final Fantasy VII, like, just ruined that for me when I was a kid. Like, I hated turn-based way back then, and I still hate it. So when I remember when the reboot for Final Fantasy came out, it wasn't turn-based, I was like, thank goodness. Like, I hated people like, that's not really Final Fantasy VII. I was like, thank Jesus H.W. Christ. That is not turn-based anymore. I hated turn-based. But I heard that it's a Yakuza game, Like a Dragon, I think it's called. It's turn-based, and I heard it's actually pretty good, the way this turn-based is in that. So I saw it for sale. I didn't get it though. It's been for sale a few times this year. I've been trying to see if the price goes down more because I haven't played anything. But anyway, I was thinking about buying this. I think it's available now, but when I saw it last time I was on the PlayStation Store, I think it was pre-order was available. And so I'm gonna see if Mandalore Gaming can get me to buy this, because he got me to buy Pathologic 2. I would have bought Pathologic 1, but it's not available on PlayStation. I think you can play it for free actually on PC, but I just haven't looked it up to see where I can find. I think he posted in a description where you could play it on PC somewhere, or buy it maybe. I heard it was for free somewhere, but I mean, I don't mind paying for it, like it's going to the developer. But that's one thing you gotta be careful, because you never know. Some people be selling it, and then everything's going to them, and the developers not getting any of it, especially these indie games. But anywho, let's see. I don't know why I thought this was like 50 minutes. I must have been looking at something else, because I was like, this is only 21 minutes. They only 21 minutes. So anyway, let's get into this. Here we go.
Is that pizza? Save me a slice, squad.
Save me a slice. Toast me a ninja slice. That was one of the best parts of Aliens, when they were just running over
It's been a long
xenomorphs.
while since the Aliens franchise has come close to touching a strategy or a tactics game. I don't want to say it was because AVP Extinction was torture, but it was definitely undercooked. So now it has a brand new tactics game from the developer of Battlefleet Gothic. I didn't realize that until after I beat it, so that was a shock. It's not too often I do a video about a brand new game right at launch, but the idea of a real-time Aliens XCOM mashup thing, I was fascinated enough to get the reviewed copy for launch. I didn't know what to expect for better or worse, because again, my baseline is Extinction.
Yeah, when you get popular enough, people start sending you free shit. It's funny how that works.
Alright, so here's what this is all about. The story takes place about 20 years after the studio bar fight that was Alien 3. The remote moon of Lethe has been colonized by Weyland-Yutani.
Hey, I liked Alien 3. When I was young, that was actually my favorite Alien. Well, that was the one that came on cable the most for some reason. At least the one I caught. Alien 3 came on a lot, and it had my boy, what's his name, Charles Dutton in it. I almost said Charleston Heston. Charles Dutton was in it. The Rock was in it. I don't know why I like that movie so much. I mean, I watched it as an adult, and I was like, I think it's fine. Yeah, I see. Cause I didn't know back then people didn't like it. Like, cause you find out things like, oh, I watched Meteor Man when I was a kid. I was like, I love Meteor Man. I love Blank Man. And you find out like when you become an adult, like, oh yeah, people didn't like that back then, and it got panned and stuff. I was like, why didn't we get a Meteor Man sequel? I remember my brother had the comics. I think he still got them, the Meteor Man comics. And I was like, why didn't we get like a sequel or something? You found out like, oh yeah, that movie was panned and it was terrible. People said it was terrible. I was like, what? It was great. But then I watched it as an adult. I was like, yeah, I can see why people didn't like this. Like, I still like it. Like, nostalgia, the nostalgia bug has got me, so I still like it. It's not like I hate it. But as a rational adult, I can look at it, but like, I can see why people might not like this, you know. And maybe I like because I saw it when I was young, but if I probably watched this as an adult, I probably wouldn't like this. But you know, I'm not the same person now as I was when I was. When did Meteor Man come out? Or those months? I think I was like 10 or something, 9 or something. But Alien 3 was one of my favorites, and until I got a little bit older, and Aliens became one of my favorites. But Alien 3, is to me, is underrated.
It's not much of a concern to the
I
company,
said
and
it.
shady deals like smuggling happen there all the time.
Come
He
at me.
plays the deputy administrator of the orbital shipping station, Maiko Hayes. She's an idealist at heart, hoping to climb the corporate ladder the correct way, which is hard when her direct boss is a human grease tray who's facilitating all the shady.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Trader of the orbital shipping station, Maiko Hayes.
I was just looking at
She's an
this
idealist
android.
at heart, hoping to climb.
Why would you design this like this? Because I was looking up, I didn't see this. Maybe I missed it, which I should have, because I always find it interesting to see the design of the like androids in these. So I know the androids in Alien Isolation pretty much look like this. The eyes didn't look so sunken in though. The sunken inness of the eyes make them look even more creepy. Now, why would you design it like this? I get it that you want them to look human-esque, but not too human, because that throws humans off when something looks too human and it's not, you know, and especially when it has like human like facial like not features, but like what's the word I'm looking for, like reactions, like when they go like that, that robot that they showed when they were trying to touch his nose, and it was like they kind of get like the fuck, and then try to like grab their hand, and people get off. That's off-putting to humans when you see stuff like that, you know. But why would you design it like this? Like, why? People already find this shit creepy, especially when it's a machine. It's like, why would they, like, no, just make it look indistinguishable from humans. For me anyway, like looking like this, like, no, I would not want this around me. I don't care if it makes my job way easier. I don't want it around me looking at me like this.
The corporate ladder the correct way, which is hard when our direct boss is a human grease tray who's facilitating
Like,
all the shady
he
deals.
just looks
It
like
makes it no wonder that
human
Customs misses the
shit
latest and greatest
stain.
threat to agriculture, which may have been intentionally unleashed on the station, but your boss isn't part of that. The xenomorph does its thing, the station goes to hell, and Hayes activates the Cerberus
Same
protocol,
old.
which is a network of satellites which will shut down any ship attempting to enter or leave the planet. In true way you fashion it can't mark a clean ship, it just burns down everything. Hayes is rescued by a group of Marines that were already on the station, led by Sergeant Harper, a man who is extremely prone to migraines and will only get worse now that his ship, the Otago, has been knocked out of orbit. All command staff are dead, communication is cut off with the rest of the colony, and now everything is up to them. They have to scavenge for supplies and survivors, make a plan to escape, and figure out how all of this happened. The story is not a simple framework for something more freeform either. The missions are all directly plot-driven,
figuring out how it
there are
happened.
lots of cutscenes and a ton of journal entries to find. It is punching above its weight on that angle, which is good, but the tutorial for the game tries to showcase that, and it is slow and rough. It does have a lot of mechanics
I
to
did
teach
hear
you,
that.
which is justified. But you'll be stopped
I was
constantly
reading
for little
that.
conversations or to watch the alien come out, and stuff that just makes it feel sluggish. What's happening in the story is interesting, but on the gameplay side, it is a bad first impression. The good news is, this isn't reflective of the game as a whole, and the first mission after this is really what you're in for. This is also a game with a few customizable difficulty settings, and it is fun to go back and replay it for a harder challenge.
Enemy
which
detection
does make it annoying
time.
that there's currently no option to skip the tutorial on replay. It's not terrible, but it doesn't get better the second time. I mean, the entire appeal is role-playing as Lieutenant Gorman, sending your Marines in and trying to get them out alive. There are some missions that break away from that, but this is 95% of your time. So that said, let's move on to the graphics. When it comes to these kinds of games, I don't have huge expectations for pure visual quality, but the sheer amount of detail combined with how massive these maps can be make it one of the most impressive I've seen. You can zoom out to a bird's eye view or be directly above your squad, and visually, neither of those look incorrect. Every room is packed with all kinds of objects and debris, which is already great on its own, but it also helps to give that extra level of paranoia since not every threat will immediately show up on your motion tracker. There could be an egg behind a barrel or a warrior crunched up in stasis anywhere. Your squad moves as a single unit, and a big part of the game is sweeping an area with your flashlight. It'll automatically select the nearest marine to do this, and beyond showing where the gene muggers might be hiding, it'll also highlight interactable objects, which you can eyeball, but this does help. Because some maps can have near pitch black sections, which is already hairy to navigate in, but much worse fighting in. So you do have tools to brighten things up. Even when it's not pitch black, it's still a shadowed and foggy world. Most of the environments are oppressively industrial, which is very faithful to the setting.
I mean, I can understand that because you're talking about a game where you pretty much have a bird's eye view of everything. And if you have it where there are face huggers around or xenomorphs, you don't want to, you still want the scare, I guess, aspect of, which is funny to say about Alien. I don't think too many people are scared of it. It's like Freddy Krueger. Like ever since after the first one came out and all the other sequels, like I don't think anyone's pretty much scared of that. I watched that as a kid. That was like the least scary like slasher that I remember as a kid. But I mean that makes sense to make things because I could see those. Like, we need to make this pitch black, so you have to use your flashlight. But then you see, like, because you have a bird's eye view, it causes shadows. So you like, is that a xenomorph? Or, and I'm sure it'll react to the light and stuff like that. But or is that a face hugger? You know, it's stuff like that. Because you have a bird's eye view, they have to make things pitch black. So you use different tactics to use, like they shot the flare so you can see the flare, or you shine your flashlight, but you need to see over in a particular spot. And because you have a bird's eye view, it's casting like shadows. It's if I shoot this flare over here, it'll cast light so I can see more in that area because I'm at a bird's eye view. So I mean that makes sense to have it set up like this. Like that'd be one thing if it was, what was that? It was a recent Aliens game that came out. It's kind of like it's like a co-op game that came out last year, I think, or earlier this year. It looked kind of cool. I watched a couple people play it. What's his name? Damn, why am I forgetting his name? Bruce Green used to be at Funhouse. I watched him play through it with some other people, and it's pretty much like a I guess kind of like a PUBG, but you're not playing against other people. You're playing against the computer. I'm trying to think of another game, but like a first person, not a first person shooter, but like a third person shooter type game. And it looked kind of cool. Like I said, it kind of looks like this, except this is like a strategy game. That was just going in and just killing xenomorphs, and that's it. But yeah, this makes sense.
There's still a good amount of variety inside of that. Like a high-tech space station isn't going to look the same as a colonial slaughterhouse. Plus, the maps being large and having multiple layers means you can see all kinds of things inside the same mission. You could start out in the wetlands or in the middle of a blizzard, but who knows what lies beneath. There's a fantastic sense of scale, and all the environments actually feel lived in. It's pretty cool that the game can have this massive backdrop of a spaceship.
You know what? He's convincing me to get it. I'm only 4 minutes in. I still got like 16, a little bit over, almost 17 minutes left. Like I was already thinking about getting it because it's a strategy type game. I forget what they call these games. Is it real time strategy? I need to start playing video games. I haven't played a video game in years. I need to start playing. I got so many games I plan on streaming or just recording or whatever, and I still haven't fucking done it. I just got another video capture because I tested mine out yesterday. This one I bought like 7-8 years ago to do this, to record, because when I started my channel, it was a gaming channel, and I said, I could record stuff, and I bought that, and it worked fine. I tried it now, and it don't work, and I said, well, no fucking wonder. It's probably got dust all in it. It didn't even work, so I bought another one because during that Prime sale.
But it can scale down to show a man who died reaching for pizza. Like, you can see the slices in the box. It's that level of detail uncompromised on maps like these. And again, layered maps like these. Some of them are more intricate than the ones from the role-playing game. Nothing here was randomly generated, these are designed, and you can feel that. With that kind of scale, I did have some graphical slowdown at points, which didn't surprise me, but your mileage may vary. Sometimes areas can look too washed out, but overall it does an excellent job at capturing the atmosphere that it should. Moody, mysterious, and a chance of horrors around any corner. Your loyal troops bring most of the light, and will have to hold out until the disorders kick in. The actual character models are alright, but the trade-off is there is a fair amount of customization and upgrades that are reflected on the characters.
That's cool.
Outside of some cutscenes, for most of the game you're mainly seeing them from a distance anyways. And
I keep pausing, but you know, when I did play XCOM, which I still haven't actually played like missions for. I think I played the first, I think it was like a tutorial type mission at the beginning, but I spent literal hours customizing characters on that game. I think I customized as many as you could on there. I can't remember because this was years ago. I customized like so many characters because they said, well, you play that game, you know, if you lose a character, they're dead. They're done. You know, you can get characters injured and stuff like that. And if you succeed, I guess, in a mission, or you can retreat, you can get them. They go like in, I guess, in an infirmary, and then they heal up, and then you can put them back out there. So after a certain amount of time has passed. But once from what I've seen, but some people, when they're dead, and then a new character rolls in, but I would like customize so many characters on that, and I was like, man, it's a lot of customization. If I remember correctly, I think I bought some stuff, which is not good because, like I said, I haven't even really played the game in depth, and I bought all this shit. Like, I have so many games I bought. Like, I need to stop. I've become that person where I buy games and I don't play them. Like, I've gotten to that age. Like, oh, I'm gonna play this, and I don't even play. Like, and it's not even like I play old games or something. Like, oh, I keep just replaying old shit that I played from my youth or something, or in my 20s or something. Like, no, I don't even play anything. I just buy it and I plan on playing it, and I don't. I'm gonna do it. I bought that goddamn capture card. I'm playing these freaking games. I'm cursing. I say freaking. I'm gonna start. I might start with a easier one, like Life is Strange or something. Because I've had that for years. Because that was on PlayStation. I think that was a download up if you have a PSN account, a PlayStation Plus. But I also I got so many games I need to play.
They're still solid enough for this kind of genre. So I'm in the same headspace as Alien Isolation, where I don't mind the character fidelity as long as it
I'm fine with that. That
can be
Android
tricky
is
to pull
fine.
off in a top-down game, but here they succeed. It's also backed up by some solid sound design. All the movie effects you'd expect to be authentic, like the motion tracker and pulse rifle, those are all
Yeah,
there.
the sound design was cool. Cause I watched like someone play a little bit of it.
And loud,
It sounded pretty good.
Processing. But the weather effects, like howling winds and rain, is definitely a standout. The ambience is strong enough that the music is very subdued a lot of the time. You might get some creeping strings or some drum beats, but it's mainly more noise to add tension. It only starts to ramp up during combat, but it's still never bombastic.
Incoming! Come on, team! Hurry up, you slugs!
Thought he said, "Hurry up, you
They
sluts."
lost your track, squad. Good job.
They lost the track. You didn't. You only went like 10 feet.
Quiet. It didn't see us.
Just shoot it. It's like 5 of y'all.
Cut that door open!
Open up, Sesame.
For the most part, the music being low in the mix is fine for what the game is going for. Even in combat, since that'll be drowned out by gunfire and Marines yelling.
We got our scent! Look alive! Suppressive fire!
That sounds fun.
Come and get it! I'm ready!
Music being a quieter accent is fine for the main gameplay, but is noticeably weird aboard the Otago. This is where you do all
I don't know why, as I got older, I started turning down the music in games. I started noticing that when I was like, I don't know, like in my 20s at some point. I don't know exactly when, but I started turning the music down. Like, that's the first thing I do, is I turn the music like around like 50-60%, and I turn all the sound effects all the way up. I don't know why. Because before I did, when I was a kid, teenager, I never even mess with the settings like that in the games. Like, the only time they did it is if they forced you to do it. It's like, oh, you gotta change the lighting setting or something. Like, can you see this this logo? If you can see it, then you need to adjust the settings and stuff like that. But yeah, as I got older, I don't know why I started doing that. It's like I think that some games, because I've never, like I said, it's been at least 4 years since I just sat down and played a game. But because it was I started noticing that I want to say that I can remember, I think it was Sleeping Dogs, where when I played that, the sound was so, the music, because like the music was up all the way, and it was so loud, like I couldn't hear the people talk, even in the cutscenes. So I like would turn it down, you know, and well, not in the cutscenes, not that game, but it's like when he was talking, well, no, yeah, in the cutscene, but it was like he was talking in a car, and it's like I couldn't hear. I was like, "What the hell?" Okay, and it's like, because it is the sound of the stereo. Because I will always have music on when I'm driving, of course, because it helps me get through it, like get from point A to point B, and I'm not thinking about it because I'm listening to the music. Plus, I listened to it, and I was like, "Oh," and I would download. I would like Shazam the music, and then like find it and buy it. I would like Google or something like that, or if I couldn't find it on there, I'd buy it somewhere else. Because I got like a bunch of the music for Sleeping Dogs and God of War.
your troop management, and sometimes it feels like being in a void. Like, you've just come back from an absolute shit show of a mission. You barely pulled it off, but you accomplished the mission, and this is what's waiting for you.
Dead Hills. Wounded.
I'm not saying it needs to be a parade, but it makes the Otago feel weirdly empty. You can't do that when you're trying to invoke the XCOM deployment menu.
Yeah, because XCOM was better. Yeah, I would say XCOM was much better. Yeah. It's like no.
You can be a little more gung-ho about shooting aliens. Jesus, no wonder the squad leader's depressed. I don't know, I feel like getting hyped up before getting your ass kicked is very in the spirit of Aliens. There are plenty of tense, foreboding tracks in the franchise
Oh
to draw
my
from,
God.
but as is...
I ain't gonna lie. Like, watching Aliens as a kid, I like that black guy. Like, the way he talked to everybody, because he was like the commanding officer. But when I went in the military and I watched that movie and heard him talk, I hated him so much. I hated him. I was like, "Will you shut up?" I hate that when I was there, when you have somebody who acts like that, almost like a drill sergeant, or I guess a training instructor in the Air Force, like TI. But the way he talks, that he almost kind of been upbeat, but at the same time very like direct and like, or I guess order driven or whatever you want to say. And it's just like being in the military. When I heard that, I was like, I hate him now.
Otago management feels very barren.
Let's hope our Matt won't sue us.
The voice acting can also be a bit all over the place. The main cast is solid, and most of the Marines give a good delivery.
Hey man, if that ever happens to me, just shoot me, okay?
They'll get doused with acid and
don't
scream
worry.
their head off, and that's all great. There are some lines
I
that
was
are more
already gonna
flat,
do
but the
that.
worst of them are when they try to quote the movie. It almost seems like the voice actors themselves hated it so much they started doing it ironically.
Game over, man! Game over!
Those things are handy for close encounters. Fighting these beasts with shovels, harsh language, and pickaxes.
This isn't just in-game callouts either, like there's a part here where Hayes and Harper get into a fight. And I am interested in what's happening, and then...
Well, congratulations, Hayes, when it comes to badass your state-of-the-art.
I just find this shit so distracting. And I don't mean to be no fun allowed who doesn't like quoting aliens sometimes. But it happened enough here that it became worth bringing up. Because if the game is already this detailed, faithful recreation of the movie's setting, I assume they like the movie. It comes off as being desperate when it doesn't need to do this. The game is going off in its own direction and story, so those constant callbacks start pulling me back out of it.
That's actually annoying. Like, I kind of hate when people do that in movies. Like you see like a remake or a reboot or something, and they try to have callbacks, so they trying to pick at that nostalgia bone on people at the same time. So, oh, you said the line. It's like when I see that, I just get annoyed. I was like, oh god, like some things do like they tickle my nostalgia bone, and I'm like, oh, they said the thing, but then like after that, I'm just like 3 seconds later, I don't give a shit. Like, and the way this sounds, it's game over, man, game over. Like I say that shit trying to be funny and stuff that's not even related to aliens, but when you watch aliens movie, I mean, well, not watch, but you got a game based on aliens, and you just say that just because it was in the movie. It just, especially when you deliver the line like that. Like I said, it's almost like you have to say these lines. Like you have to fit them in there somewhere. And the voice actor was like, okay, and then they just said it, and then whoever designed it just put it in there, whatever random time, and it didn't even have any heart in it. It's just like, game over, man. Like, just that'll be like if they made a Predator one and some random person like they were shooting in all directions and just kept saying some shit like that, or someone was screaming like Bill Dukes when he was when they was shooting at the Predator in the first one. It was like, or they kept saying like, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." Like, yes, yeah, I got that. You know, I understand. Yes. Okay. Shit.
Still not as bad or desperate as Colonial Marines, which also had the Sharp Sticks pre-order item. You know, as referenced by Hudson in the movie.
We got nukes, we got knives, sharp sticks.
I'm just shocked they didn't include Apone's harsh language
She
sonic
like,
gun.
Wait, that's real?
It's not a huge deal, but was jarring enough to bring up. An alien's line here or there in your alien's project is fine, but when it's this often, it's mostly obnoxious. Mostly. I do give a pass to Let's Rock because that at least sounds natural.
We're spotted!
He gets a pass
yeah,
too.
that's fine.
It's so polite. On the gameplay side, it clearly does take inspiration from the RPG, though obviously more combat focused, but the core of the game revolves around risk. From the moment you're deploying your first Marines, they have personality traits, and of course, none of them are good. They could be higher
Clumsy.
chances for RNG screw-ups,
Jinx.
or flat debuffs like a guy who keeps starting shit when everyone's on their downtime. It turns out not all the Marines joined up for their level.
Wait a minute. I can understand is saying someone's clumsy, okay, but a personality trait is their jinx. Some made up shit. Like, that's something a lot of people don't even believe in. It's like reincarnation. Like, you believe in it or you don't. You know, you can't prove it. It was like, oh, you got a jinx. Like, That reminds me, I watched Riddick recently, and I remember one of the guys was like, "Hey, you need to take that Jinx off our Jinx, man." I'm like, and the dude was like, "Shut up." It's like, cause it's like he may not even believe in that, you know. Even though I mean the guy did die because he was talking shit. So maybe Jinx is real. I don't know. It was like Jinx. How is that up? Like you got clumsy. Something that people actually are. Somebody could be clumsier than another person, but it's like Jinx. Like what?
Of slaying dragons, but were in fact tricked by the recruiter at their high school cafeteria. Others are survivors who can hold a gun, so for now, no one is fully committed. Eventually, you could get an attribute to remove the negative trait, but that comes with experience. You can also buy supplies for the deployment, like tools that let you weld doors, repair robots, hack computers, and a lot more. You've also got your standard issue first aid kits, and of course, the sentry guns. Ammunition is also an issue, but you can't deploy with extra.
I don't like that. Okay, that's one thing I don't like. This is a survival game, basically. Kind of a survival horror strategy game. Why is there... I don't know. Because you can buy shit in like Resident Evil 4 from the merchant. And even though I remember when I first played I haven't played the remake, but the original game, I ain't gonna lie, I thought that was weird when the merchant just came in. He's like, "Welcome," and I was like, "So you just selling shit?" It's like, I mean, at the end of the day, I was like, "Okay, whatever." That's how you get upgrades and stuff like that. It's not Leon just finding material and upgrading the weapon. I guess you could have done that, like, oh, you have material throughout the game and then you have to find it, but then in that case you can miss stuff. So I can usually completely miss an upgrade for a shotgun or something like that, you know, rather than going to the merchant that they have at certain location that you have to pass to get to the next location. So it's not like you're gonna miss them. And it's like, hey, you collected enough coins, you know, if you didn't pick up nothing, I mean, you had to have picked up something. So you gonna have at least some coins. And these, hey, you can buy upgrades and stuff like that. So I get that. You know, that way you don't miss anything. I mean, I guess you could, like I said, you could still kind of miss stuff if you don't pick up the coins. But who doesn't pick up the coins? You know, but I don't know in this, I feel like in a more of a strategy game like this, I feel like you shouldn't have to buy stuff. Or like, oh, you had to collect coins or something, like going through the game, and then you go to the in-game store and buy stuff. You know, I feel like it should be more of a scavenging type thing. Like, what's the name of that game? Why am I forgetting? Like, kind of like Dying Light. Like, you go around and scavenge and collect stuff. You know, and they did have it where you can go to a store in like the hub and stuff like that and buy stuff or exchange stuff like that. But I guess you can have both. Hey, you give the player more options. Hey, you can buy stuff and you come back to the hub, but you also can collect stuff. You know, but I'm talking on my ass.
You can find all these things throughout the mission, but with the exception of ammo, you can't carry all of it. And going back to how intricate the maps are, supplies can be very spread out. That unknown factor with your supplies is the second layer of uncertainty. Now, while the game has a lot of combat, avoiding unnecessary confrontations is central. When the aliens first realize you're there, they launch a hunt for you. At first, the aggression is pretty light, but as the hunt goes on, it starts ticking upwards. Whether you kill them, distract them, or run away, if you can hide out long enough, the hunt will end. But that overall aggression meter stays where it was. As the mission goes on, the attacks become more elaborate and violent. When you hit a new level of aggression, the Hive will launch an onslaught. This gives you about 30 seconds to prepare before the penetration parade arrives. They can also be joined by larger forms like the Praetorian and the Crusher, which actually debuted in Colonial Marines. These are called Class 2 Xenos, and they could be called that because these are the only two types. And for how many forms this franchise has now, that is disappointing. I mean, I'd love to see the Carrier make an HD return. Anyhow, as the mission goes on and the Hive starts screeching louder, the aggression levels will get out of control. Beyond the risk to your squad's health, you also have their stress to manage. You can control it through some squad leader abilities, using a first aid kit to pop pills, or use tools to weld up doors and create a shelter the gang can rest in.
You shall not pass, fuckers.
As your troops get more experienced and brave, they can slow down the onset of stress, but stress is a little demon that compounds misery. With each new level unlocked comes new negative effects unless you treat it. They can get so scared that their hands shake and they're less accurate. They can be confused or panic and have less points for combat skills, or start ranting and raving, stressing everyone else out. For an extra kick, for each level of stress reached in a mission, even if you heal it, you receive a trauma point, which means you want to mitigate stress early. Because if you don't, the whole squad will roll up with all kinds of new disorders.
Whoa,
The squad leader
tired.
can become much more depressed. Post-mission, you have a med bay to heal the Marines who got too physically injured, and an entire trauma ward, because the sounds of hissing just do not leave at night. You can just throw them back into the fight.
See, that's when you just start doing those Marine sayings. Like, oh, you depressed? You like, we don't die. We just go to hell and regroup. It's like what? It's like we don't plan. We improvise. You just start saying a bunch of random ass Marine sayings. I actually heard a Marine say that. I thought that was a movie thing. It's like Marines don't say that. I actually heard a Marine say that. He said, we don't plan. We improvise. I was like, it's maybe because I saw the movie first. I was like, it just seems so corny when he said it. I was like, stop. No, you do not say that. You do not. Y'all don't say that. I was saying what like he sounds like that. He like hoorah like that, and I'm like, oh god. I was like, I'm not a Marine. All right, so you missed me with that bullshit.
If you don't mind the smart gunner being borderline. But this all loops back into managing your health, stress, and
I tried to
supplies.
be.
Is the mission worth it if the squad will be out of commission for days and unstable after if you don't spend even more? The genius of this game is you can extract at any time. In fact, you're encouraged to do this because the maps are so large and can have so many secondary objectives open up that it expects you to do it in multiple deployments.
That's interesting.
These are persistent maps. What door you
I didn't
weld
think
or
you could
where a
do
broken
that.
sentry might be, that all stays. But you have a fresh squad and unbothered aliens. But it feels like more than one trip for the groceries. We can do it. We don't need a second trip. Oh god, we do on this one.
Yeah, I would always leave.
This was 3 trips of suffering. So combat is inevitable, but the game gives you tools to try and avoid it for as long as you can. Your motion tracker is still your first line of defense against faraway threats. From there you can try to avoid it entirely, or sneak around using cover. You can go on the offensive too. A class like the Recon could eventually unlock a suppressed sniper rifle, or use a sentry gun without a squad, which the Hive can break easily, but they won't know the whole squad is around. You can find the awful hidey holes the aliens come out of, and leave a deployable motion tracker as an early warning system. These can also emit a ton of noise before destroying themselves, so they make for a great distraction. Combine that with laying down minefields, or slowing them down by welding off doors. They'll have to break it down like a cat wanting to be let in. You'll unlock all kinds of tools and upgrades as the game goes on, including Xenotech, which you get through exploration or risky side objectives like murdering queens. And even the act of killing the queen can expose your troops to hydrofluoric Splash Mountain.
Ooh.
Xenotech can give you ways to remove facehuggers, acid-proof armor, but again, each deployment, it's going to cost some resources to use it. And eventually in the campaign, the Cerberus protocol puts a time pressure on you. It is adjustable in the options, but it makes your deployments more cautious if you do decide to deploy. The game has a ton of ways of stacking pressure, but it makes your choices feel meaningful. And that does range from the bigger campaign event and upgrade choices down to really small things in combat. For an easy example, your squad has 2 speeds of walking and running. They can only move and shoot if they're walking, so combat seems like a no-brainer here. Find a nice spot to set up a choke
that
point
makes
and
sense.
go nuts. This seems well and good until you realize the aliens can start snatching your guys away.
Oh
You might
no.
not catch him running and shooting, so you can give chase if it's alone and probably get him back. But if you try to do that while the squad is still under attack, you put everyone at risk and can easily be wiped. Sometimes you've got to make some
strategy.
hard calls. There are humanoid enemies too, which you naturally get worried about when you hear that that's going to be in an alien game. And there are some sections that are just straight up
See.
gunfights. They're fine on their own, but
See, that's what I'm talking about. That you get these goddamn androids that are fucking whaling eutonics or whatever. They work for them, and they trying to preserve these aliens, and they like, hey, we don't want you killing them, so they attack you. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's why people don't like AI. They watch shit like this, and then they're like, I don't like it. I don't like robots because I watched The Matrix. It's like, It's like I already have that word about alien xenomorphs that literally are just killing machine. They were bred to be that, to be a weapon. And now I gotta worry about damn androids shooting me too, because they trying to keep me from killing these fucks. Like, okay, everybody's dead.
Not a strength of the game.
Anybody
what
who's
people are
not
coming
human is
for,
dead.
And the developers seem very aware of that. The sound of gunfire and especially explosions will attract the aliens. So some fights turn to absolute mosh pits unless you find a way to get the aliens on them first. Unless they're part of the cult that lives in harmony with the
that's
xenomorphs,
cool.
then you've got problems. You getting tension and problems piled on but still pulling through it is the core of the game, and it's an extremely strong one. Moments like reloading a sentry just in time or moving your APC into the perfect choke point. There's only a dozen missions and some are only 15 to 30 minute affairs, but others can last hours. There's room for all kinds of situations and a lot of replay value. If it seems too high pressure for real time, the game does slow down when you use an ability, but you can change that to be a complete pause if you want to. I did go with slow-mo so I wouldn't be completely off the hook, but the game can be gentler. I did have a lot of fun playing it, but there are some noticeable shortcomings. On the polished side, it was mainly good. There might be a visual bug or something not working.
No game is perfect.
The biggest danger is the pathfinding, which overall is still pretty great for how large the maps are, but there are certain crates and objects in a few levels where it seems like a marine can get more easily stuck. If you don't notice it, that's a disaster waiting to happen. I'm sure stuff like that will be more polished up, so that's not one of my bigger issues. Having the squad move as one unit is convenient, but you can't separate them out manually, only if they're going to an interactable object or something that's already placed on the map. You can't do something like move a single marine to open a door to have more line of sight for your weapons. I get why they didn't have that level of individual control, but there were times where I did miss it. Speaking of control, there are a few times where you lose it and get cutscene run into an alien hive or something that I would never do on my own, which is extra annoying when you immediately start getting obliterated. It'll usually give you the courtesy of saying a big fight is coming up, but not always. It can also be unclear where the
especially when the cutscenes you
also,
into
the lack of
it.
unique alien varieties is still a disappointment. When you're listing the egg, facehugger, and chestburster as 3, that feels like some reaching. There is a pretty cool new one, but it's only a set piece at the very end of the game. They do mix up what they have by giving them different abilities, which does change up how you handle a fight, but not dramatically. I would have liked if they had more variants to really throw a wrench in your plan, or at the very least, more Class 2 forms. Class 2 approaching only meaning a Crusher or a Praetorian is incredibly underwhelming. The game is paced well enough where it doesn't feel stale. My first run I beat in a little over 20 hours. It's still cutting it close, and as much as I'd like for there to be more missions in the future, there'd have to be new aliens.
I should thought it'd be
I
longer
get he's a
than
big
that.
dude, but you're expecting him to carry too much. It also feels bad that the final mission in the game isn't a big final hurrah with your squad, but instead a mission more like the tutorial where it's some pre-established story characters and not much of the tactics you've been playing the game for. If it was a great story wrap-up, I'm sure I wouldn't care. The game's story has interesting and even some thoughtful elements to it, but I do think it gets snagged by a now long-running series trap where it raises a lot of questions but doesn't answer them. There are payoffs on the character side, at least when it comes to Hayes and Harper, but others are picked straight out of the jar for movie stereotypes, and you'll guess where things are going. Like the movie lines, there's a lot of unnecessary retreading. Having a cult that is somehow in harmony with the aliens is already an interesting draw.
Yeah,
And if you look through the logs, there's a lot about how cults like this form in the first place. Weyland-Yutani is a horrible company, and people are desperate for a new life and a new chance. And that could have been a background detail and
I
just...
don't know why. I think that's weird though. Anytime they have like a cult in these things, I'm like, these aliens, all they do is kill and eat. It kind of reminds me of the cult in Dead Space. I was like, you want to be these xenomorphs, damn it, what are they called? I'm forgetting what they call those things. Now I want to say necromancer, but that's not what that is. I forgot the name of it. What they call those things at Dead Space. But you know those things, like, because I know they call it the rebirth or some shit, and like people want to become those things. Like they think that I don't know if that's a natural progression. I can't remember the story off the top of my head, but still, like, you are creating. You have a cult, and they do that in almost every one of those games. Was like, oh, I want the power of it's necromorphs. That's what they call it, necromorphs. I want the power of them or something. Like what? What power? You die, and then you get reanimated into a monster. What power are you talking about? Like what? I was like, I don't get it. I mean, I guess it's like if you like, oh, I'm gonna die and get reincarnated, but that's different. You get reincarnated as anything, but if you believe in that, like, it's like, but you gonna get reincarnated into this thing that you can see, that is just literally a monster and just attacks anything that it isn't. It's like itself. And like, what is this about xenomorphs? Like, well, you think they're gods or something? Like, at least when humans, like, when they did Alien versus Predator, it made more sense why they said humans worship the predators. Because they were like humanoid with advanced technology. You know, they were strong, fast, durable. Like, I could see early humans seeing them. Like, hey, they got stuff we don't have. And they're big and stronger than us, and so like I could see them worshiping that. You know, that makes sense. Like people, hell, people will literally worship a preacher if they could have like a fucking rattlesnake not bite them. They let it get right in their face and it don't bite them. People were like, it's a miracle, and they'll go to that dude's church and give him all types of money. You know. But I always thought that was just stupid to me. What is he called? They just added that just to add something. But I never thought it made sense.
On the end of that. Instead, we have to go through Weyland-Yutani as evil. They want money and power. We've seen this so many times now. They do make a point of saying good people work for the company and may have compromised themselves to advance. Hayes is learning that legality does not equal morality, but that angle's not that interesting because you've seen this kind of story all over the place. At this point, the Weyland-Yutani logo is basically a space swastika. I don't think its higher-ups being involved in nefarious shit can be considered a reveal anymore. At this rate, a Weyland executive being good would actually be a twist. I'm not saying it's bad because the story does have its cool moments and knows when to keep some mysterious things cryptic, but if this moment in the trailer extremely caught your attention like it did for me, it's never expanded on into being something great. I struggled with whether or not to talk about the story in more detail here. I've realized that the plot is good at keeping you moving forward, but a lot of reveals are extremely mundane or very abrupt. Some people die in a blink. The more unique elements are left open-ended, and while the last mission does raise some great potential for a future story, I still found it ultimately unsatisfying. It came across like they had a great concept, but aren't yet sure where to go with it. I just wish the story had been more focused in, because I prefer what's happening with Harper and the Colonial Strogg. As is, the imagery is more interesting than what they actually do with it. But it's okay because the game is fun.
Hey, as long as the game is fun.
Overall, I really enjoyed my time with Dark
That's
Descent.
all that really matters.
I didn't know I wanted an Aliens game like this until I played it, since most of what I envision is in first person. It's also not being sold as a full-priced game, so if you like the setting or high-pressure tactics games, I think you could pick it up day one and be happy. If you're on the fence, it might be worth it to wait for a sale when it's a little more polished. I do hope it's not the end of the game and they have some mission packs or something like that in the future. It has great mechanics that really appeal to the risk versus reward I like in the genre, and with more tools, weapons, and enemies, I think it can only get stronger. Overall, this game was a great surprise, and I wish this was the one that was called Colonial Marines. It certainly feels a lot more worthy of the name. Alright, I'll see you next time.
Yo, that was cool. He kind of. Oh, this thing is hurting my ass. But I don't know. He did kind of convince me. I mean, cause I was already more so thinking about getting it anyway, but I don't know. It still looks cool. I mean, like I might wait until it's on sale or something. Normally, like what I do, like I have no problem waiting, months or years until something goes on sale. There's some stuff I was looking at the other day. It's been out since like I don't remember even the name of the game, but I saw it had been out since 2016, and it's still $60. I was like, what is this game? It's still $60. Like it's been out for like, oh, what is that? It was like 7 years. Like it's still $60. It's like no. But I got Anthem. I think like a couple months ago. It was on sale. I want to say it was like $5.99 or $8.99 or something like that. And my brother played it. He said he enjoyed it. He enjoyed like the Anthem game. You know, the one that apparently everyone hated and got horrible reviews. But I did see some comments like, "Hey, if you like flying around like Iron Man, then you'll enjoy it. At least that part. But you know, everything else that you think is horrible." And my brother, he talked about, he said he enjoyed it, but I mean, I only seen him play it like a few times. When I see him when he's logged in, it's like he's playing Anthem, and I haven't seen him play it since. So, but like I said, I got it cheap, because it was like, I was like, oh, it's another game I can play on stream or something, you know. But I will see. But you know what? I kind of feeling that Mandalore Gaming has swayed me to get this game. Not now. I might wait. Like he said, I might wait until the price goes down. Cause I still need to play XCon. I keep saying I'm gonna do that, but I haven't done it. But I hope that's not really messing with the audio. I have a fan on in front of me. I'm sorry, it's hot. Even though it's like 68 degrees, but it's warm in this. It gets really warm in this room. Even though I got my window open. And I'm sorry. Like if that annoys you, I'm sorry. You know, yeah, when I record it and I listen to the sound and it didn't pick it up very well. So it was like slightly. So I might have to tweak it when I edit this, but hey, it is what it is. It's too goddamn hot. I'm sorry. But anyway, hey, it looks good. It looked good when I saw it. Mandalore had a convincing argument. He made some good points about the story that when you go back to the base, that was weird. It was like no music or nothing. Maybe they'll add some later on. I don't know. But it looks cool. So maybe I'll get it later on when the price goes down. But anywho, hope you all enjoyed my reaction. One, if you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.